And a very good afternoon to each and every one of you out there. Welcome, welcome to Below the Belt. So happy that you guys can join us from the various places in which you join us from. We are so privileged to have you guys once more, to have your attention. We know lots of you guys are now making some time during your lunch break to share this time with us. And guys, we're grateful for that. We trust that you guys are having a fantastic day. It's a beautiful sunny day in downtown Georgetown. It's just the right temperature. And folks, we've noted that we've been getting this good weather for quite a number of days now, and we are so grateful to the big man upstairs or whoever up there. We are grateful. I think it's a big man, though. I think it's a man with the angle. The Most High. We are so grateful. We are seeing, according to weather.com, it's now 29 degrees outside. And when the week started, we looked at this forecast. They had predicted a huge percentage, a high percentage that there'd be rainfall. And based on what we're seeing here, there's an 8% chance, a very, very slim chance of rainfall. It's 29 degrees outside. It's fantastic day, really and truly, to be out. And we came through the city, and lots of folks are up and about. It's the Christmas season, guy, and I don't know about you, but I feel it a little bit. I feel it a little bit. I was talking to my wife, and I were talking this morning, and she said, she ain't feeling it yet. I said, well, hold on, man. Are you feeling it? That's the important thing. And guys, I'm looking for a nice Christmas tree. I told her, I said, if we got nothing else, I want a Christmas tree. Y'all know things tight. So if we got nothing else, I want a Christmas tree, folks. I want a Christmas tree. Guys, I'm so happy that so many of you are joining us. And when you come on, we always ask that you guys share the live stream. We hungry for the shares. We licorice for the likes. We licorice for the loves. We licorice for you guys to smash that emoji. We are so privileged to have so many of you joining us. We got quite a cast today, and we're going to be joined momentarily in our program by the one and only senior counsel Roysdale Ford. We're going to be joined by Amanda Walton Desire, and we're going to be joined by the one and only Amanda Walton Desire, attorney at law as well. And as you know, you gotta be an attorney at law to be senior counsel. So Roysdale Ford is an attorney at law. Amanda Walton Desire is joining us too, and then we have, last but not least, the man himself. He was on with us just briefly last evening in the ring, but he's below the belt today. The one and only Darren Wade, attorney at law. Darren Wade is going to be joining the discussion this afternoon as well. And we're looking at how these jagabats weaponizing the courts and persecuting political enemies. Guys, share the podcast for us. And you know, some of you guys are picking this up on Twitter. Some of you guys are picking this up across Facebook. Some of you guys are picking this up on YouTube and some other places as well. Wherever you're picking us up from whichever page on Facebook, guys, we're inviting you to share the live stream. It's Friday, December 3rd. And believe it or not, this is our 5th episode. We started on Monday. It is our 5th episode already, and I'm looking forward to that 500th episode. The technical guys watching me and smiling. We're looking forward for that 500th episode. But we're so privileged for another day to do what we do best here, below the belt, weaponizing the courts, persecuting political enemies. That's the subject for discussion. Guys, but before we bring our guest on, as I was coming up, I saw a little market happening at the Square of the Revolution. Looked like some small businesses have assembled there. Everybody trying to catch your hand for Christmas. So if you guys have a chance, maybe you can take a peek and see if they got any good deals, because people are going to be hunting the good deals. We're going to be hunting the good deals, folks. We're going to be hunting them because things tight. And then boys don't tell me to brace myself. Shortages come in. So if you get a chance to catch something local, we want you guys to do precisely that and catch what's happening locally. Catch what's happening locally. We are very, very happy. We're very, very happy that, we know as a people how to make ends meet, irregardless. We know how to stretch a dollar good. You understand me? We know how to stretch a pot. Right? Things tight. Some people put in water and egg now for stretch it. All kinds of things people do. We are an ingenious people, and we know how to make things work. Some people got some small salary, throw bucks hand every week and building a house and, businesses and that kind of stuff. We are an industrious people and innovative people. And we're so glad that so many of you are choosing to join us day after day, week after week, now during the lunch hour, every evening for In the Ring, during the lunch hour now for Below the Belt. Great to see all of you who are joining us. As a matter of fact, great to see Sharon Eastman, who is joining us, Roxanne Estrado, who is joining us, Robert Narain, who is joining us. Good to see you there, Robin. Always love to have your support. Good to see you out there, Robin, Narain, Shandell, Brenda Braffett and Rowena Cummins, Shondell Moses. Good to see each and every one of you and take the opportunity to share the live stream. In the context of the discussion we were having about how folks are weaponizing the courts and persecuting political enemies, we're going to be talking about what's been happening with Winston Jordan, the former Minister of Finance. We're going to want to know the latest updates. We're going to be giving you guys the latest updates as to what's happening with that matter, among some other issues we're going to be raising within this discussion. Again, we're going to be joined by Royce Dale Ford, Senior Counsel, Attorney at Law, Amanza Walton, Desir Attorney at Law, and Darren Wade, Attorney at Law. A full battery of lawyers today, below the belt, guys. And I want to welcome them to our program. I think Amanza is going to join us just a few minutes short of the guys, but let us welcome, perhaps in order of seniority, legal seniority, Senior Counsel himself, Mr. Roysdale Ford, and we have also Darren Wade joining us immediately. Guys, a very good afternoon to each and every one of you. Welcome to Below the Belt, your first appearances.
Good afternoon, Sherrod. Thank you for having me on your show.
Good afternoon, Senior Counsel Ford.
Good afternoon to you, Sherrod, your listener, and to Senior Counsel. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, Counsel Wade.
Good afternoon, Darren.
And as I said, Amanza
Good
Walton
afternoon to all your listeners.
this year is going to be joining us a little later on in the program. Guys, let's start on this issue of the detention, the release, and I'm picking up out of Starbuck News that that Mr. Jordan is to be charged. They are saying over the BK deal. So maybe we can take it from there. What transpired yesterday, guys? I noticed in the media you guys were featured with former Finance Minister Winston Jordan. Tell us what transpired yesterday and where do we go from here?
Well, Sherrod, yesterday, Mr. Jordan was invited to come down to the Suku headquarters in relation to some transaction relating to BK and some lands in Kingston. That was all that he was being told at that time. When we got there, they indicated to us that they were launching an investigation and actually continuing an investigation into the fact that he would have signed a vesting order in relation to land that Mr. Brian Tiwari would have purchased from NISIL. They, notwithstanding the fact that the investigators would have been aware, and they actually said it, that these were lands which were approved by Cabinet for sale by NISIL to Brian Tiwari, and all that Mr. Jordan would have done would be to sign the vesting order as required by law as a representative signifying the approval and consent of Cabinet. They nevertheless proceeded to indicate after the interview would have been concluded that they had grounds for charging him for the offense of misconduct in public office. During the interview, they failed to identify what law Mr. Jordan would have breached. They failed to identify what breach of procedure he would have failed to follow, and any irregularity or non-compliance whatsoever in relation to Mr. Jordan's conduct, in relation to Mr. Brian Tiwari's conduct, or any breach at all whatsoever in relation to any matter relating to this transaction. So that was what happened at that stage. They then proceeded to, I believe, unjustifiably seek to humiliate and embarrass Mr. Jordan by seeking to have his fingerprints taken and his photograph taken. And when that was done, they then indicated to us that they would have been taking him to Sparendam police station to be kept. We escorted him to Sparendam police station, and when we got there, when they were about to make a formal entry for him to stay at the Sparendam police station, Mr. Jordan indicated that he was not feeling well, that he was dizzy, that he had a number of medical complications and they were acting up. The police at Sparendam decided that at that time that it was necessary for him to be taken to the Pleasance Health Center. When we got to the Pleasance Health Center, the nurse, after examination, was able to confirm that there were certain symptoms which indicated that Mr. Jordan was in fact unwell, and she recommended that he be taken to the Georgetown Public Hospital. The next thing that happened, consequently, is that the police, instead of taking him to Georgetown Public Hospital, took him back to Suku, where they released him on his own recognizance, requesting that he come back this morning at 10. Mr. Jordan was then taken to a private medical institution where he was examined. The doctors were very concerned about the results of the tests that they ran, the many numerous medical interventions and procedures that they executed, and they decided that Mr. Jordan was not in a position to leave the hospital at that time, and that also that, in their opinion, that he needed immediate and extensive mandatory rest. So I informed the policeman this morning, the police ranks this morning, that Mr. Jordan would not be able to attend um, their request for him to come back at 10 this morning. So I believe that is a summary of where we are right now, Sherrod.
Wow, just wow. Both City Council Ford and Council Wade, I want to alert you that Amanda Walton this year is now with us, just walked into studio, and we are privileged to have her with us, viewers and listeners, to Below the Belt. We have Council Amanda Walton Desire, who has joined us. The leader of the opposition said yesterday as well that there's absolutely no justification for Mr. Jordan's arrest. And we picked up here, there was a press statement out of the Alliance for Change in which they seem to support what you have said, Council Ford, there, that that at all material times, according to the press statement, Minister Jordan acted within the strict parameters of the Constitution and the Financial Management and Accountability Act. No decision was personal, the press statement reads, or without cabinet approval, and to charge and prosecute a former minister for taking actions pursuant to a decision or decisions of the cabinet is vulgar, abusive, unlawful, and unconstitutional. And as the PPP recognized when it withdrew false charges against George Norton, an individual should not be singled out and prosecuted while acting on behalf of the collective of a constitutional body known as the cabinet. Council Wade, what are your thoughts? Welcome, Amanda.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. I believe indeed that the PPP is abusing the law. They are abusing the courts. They are taking advantage on our citizens. Mr. Ramson, I would have mentioned. Let me just say, Mr. Ford did an excellent job, and I think there's not much I could add to what he would have said yesterday. But I want to say that what Mr. Jordan's reputation will not be impugned by this. Mr. Jordan will continue to be an outstanding citizen. And we are going to admire Mr. Jordan for what he would have done over the few years as a Minister of Finance. Look at today, what we are experiencing. Our public servants, they are crying out. We witnessed about a week or two ago when it's with the 7% increase, whereby court you are calling back for Mr. Jordan. So I believe that this ought to intimidate Mr. Jordan. He's been in the media for several days now. He's a proper economist. He is properly trained. He attended some of the world's best universities. And certainly he has qualified as a role model for all of Guyana, for all Guyanese, including Indians, Black, Chinese, Portuguese, whatever race you are. So the PPP is using the court to intimidate persons. If you say something, they will come after you. But it's important that we resolve, that we stand up. As Sherrod citizens like yourself, we have to continue to pray for and to thank. Because if we put in our corners, they will walk all over us. Next
Agreed.
People start walking up to us with guns and shooting us.
Agreed.
So we need to protect against that.
Agreed. The Constitution affords us a number of rights, right? A number of rights. Again, viewers and listeners, we are privileged to be joined by Amanzo Walton, Desir, attorney at law. Amanzo, what were your initial reactions having heard that Mr. Jordan was arrested, detained, and now, according to one news source we've quoted earlier, to be charged?
My initial reaction, Sharon, good afternoon to my colleagues and good afternoon to your viewers. My initial reaction was that this is a calculated attempt by the PPPC administration to push Guyana further down the road into possibly civil unrest. The PPP must know, as the leader of the opposition has said, that this is unacceptable. The PPP must be aware that the eyes, not only of Guyanese, but of the international community, that all eyes are on them. And so to simply flout and abuse and weaponize the law to humiliate a former minister of government, one who has been very critical recently of their failed economic policies, is nothing but an attempt to aggravate and agitate Guyanese. And the PPPC must know that if they keep this up, Guyanese will come to a breaking point. People can only take so much and no more. It was a jarring sight to see Winston Jordan, a tower of a man in a hospital bed and walking out of a clinic clutching his hand because apparently he might have almost suffered a stroke and all of these things. The PPPC has to stop playing these games with Guyanese people. They are going to push this country to the point of no return. And let me say this, at the level of the opposition, we will be bringing this matter to the attention of all of the international organizations that are concerned with human rights, all of the international media, because we cannot countenance this abuse of the legal process.
Very well, Amanzo. And the other part of this, as Royce articulated in the summary, this was over the BK deal, and it is quite interesting that not only are they persecuting and prosecuting um, persons of the coalition, the political foes, but also if you only seem to be friendly to the coalition, you got this persecution by prosecution. And BK is the example of that. They've terminated the Yarracabra school contract that BK had. They went to sue BK again over this BK Marine for this Water Street bond, right? The Good Hope Secondary School for BK was terminated, and then we see, the I would say an unfair process in this quarry license being given out to compete with BK, right? For people who have no business, never had a quarry, never know how to operate quarry, and all of that. So that is only part and parcel. And as we go through the discussion, I will cite a number of other instances where we're seeing this persecution by prosecution. Your thoughts, Senior Counsel?
Um, Cheryl, you're perfectly correct. That is exactly what they're doing. And what they're trying to drive a wedge in the opposition as a whole, drive a wedge in the society. Cheryl, in relation to this very issue that we're discussing, the issue of the BK and the Winston Jordan arrest yesterday, the public needs to understand that this is just one manifestation of the course of conduct which is reprehensible by this installed government. Long before we have gotten to this point of the institution of criminal charges, the Attorney General Anil Nandalal instituted civil proceedings in the High Court in relation to these very same subject matter and very same parties. And I responded representing Mr. Jordan by pointing out to the court that there was absolutely no basis for the actions that would have been filed by Mr. Nandalal. Those are currently in the court, still awaiting a decision by the court. And I believe it is in recognition that that will go nowhere. They've now activated, improperly, of course, activated the criminal process as a means to further expedite their objective, which is to humiliate Mr. Jordan and to humiliate his family, by extension, the opposition as a whole, and even Mr. BK, by Mr. Brian Tawari.
Very well, very well. Guys, jump in at any point. Council Wade and Amanza.
I just want to endorse all that is being said here. Certainly, I only believe that these charges are meant to be or what these allegations are meant to harass and intimidate Mr. Jordan, the opposition, and certainly his family. I remember yesterday Mr. Jordan raised the issue with his mother. I hope his mother is not taking it on because she's an elderly woman and so forth. So at the end of the day, well, you may see Mr. Jordan, remember his entire family and so forth, you know. So then we have to empathize and sympathize with them because this is a man they gave to us. This is a man that served Guyana with distinction as a minister of finance, one of the best finance minister we ever had. The country economy grew tremendously under him, under his watch, without oil and gas. And even he recently pointed out that basically we would have spent all of the oil revenue already on borrowing. So while we may have the money in an account in the United States, but by borrowing money, we don't supersede that amount of money. The amount of borrowing this government would have done since they're in office would have superseded the amount of money that we have in the banks, in the account in the States there. So it's very terrible. So we need persons like Mr. Jordan who have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to call out the PPP. You know, I also with my little Sharon, my little communications, economic knowledge, both of us would have received at UG. I know as since we got that 7%, I know we cut the 7% in the half, you get 3.5. I know you add inflation, you don't know it's
Yeah,
nothing. The amount
5.4
of money,
inflation.
yes. So we already was aware, of this nonsense. So Mr. Jordan, persons like Mr. Jordan are important, and there may be other persons who want to come on board, but they may be intimidated and afraid to join us. So it's important that have engagement like these to let anyone know if they give an opinion, and if something happens to them, person will be by their side, person will support them. So Miss Amanda this year said that she was sent out to the international community. That is important. We must highlight the vindictiveness and wickedness of this current administration. So
Indeed.
I don't know if anybody else. Thank you.
Indeed. Council Walton, this here.
Sherrod,
Go right ahead, Roysdale. I'll invite
no,
Mans afterwards.
what I was saying, Sherrod, is that whilst we need to write and communicate with the international community and have their involvement in these issues, these are largely domestic issues, domestic challenges, which must be dealt with by the people of Guyana. Because, Sherrod, over the past year at least, we'd have seen the absolute silence in the face of great transgression, great breaches of the law, great breaches of the Guyanese society's general principles on which it is governed, the rule of law and democracy. We have heard nothing from the international community. We have heard nothing from the local ambassadors that are present here. So the Guyanese people are coming to the realization that, the international community has essentially installed this government and have taken a virtually hands-off approach. I believe that we need to develop a response which would drive the resolution of these issues primarily from a domestic point of view, which will then be joined and supported by international communities. I just wanted to add that, Chair.
Excellent. Council Walton is here. Go right ahead.
Sherrod, I wanted to point out, um, concurring with something Council Wade has said, if we go back to the budget presentations of the coalition for the last budget, this is something we warned about. The rate of borrowing, I recall myself, I recall my colleague Director of Finance, we stood in the National Assembly and we warned that at the rate we were borrowing, we would not have money left in the Natural Resources Fund. And this is what has actually now happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we have the other issue that we pointed out very early was the conflict of interest that was being occasioned with Tarchan Balgobin sitting as the head of the National Tender Board as well as the head of the PSIP, a colossal conflict of interest. And we've been saying these things for the last few months. And so now that our colleague Winston Jordan has now brought this home very forcefully with the facts and the figures in a manner that only he can, he's now being victimized for pointing this out. But these are the facts. And Guyanese have to be aware of the facts. The other thing that we have to be aware of as Guyanese is that when we silently condone the misuse of the law, we are setting our society up for failure. And that is what we must continue to bring home to Guyanese. The world over is replete of examples of history where when dictators started to operate in a manner that flouted and just disregarded people's fundamental rights, the society degenerated. And so I'm saying to my Guyanese brothers and sisters that we have to now stand up and be alert and aware that we are heading down a slippery slope.
Indeed.
We
Indeed.
are on the edge of a cliff, and the PPP seems bent on pushing us over that cliff. And so we have to, as a society, raise our voices. This is the time for all of the action committees and the human rights. Where's the Bar Association in all of this?
On the rock.
I don't recall seeing them issue a statement. And they cannot say that this is not a matter that is in their purview. It is a clear and direct abuse of our legal process. And they have not uttered a peep. I see Anil Nandlal is now suddenly casting aspersions on the Human Rights Association.
Asking them about their membership and when last they had elections and why they didn't talk out on this and why they didn't talk out on that and where they're getting the funding from. Everything else besides the issue at hand. Folks who are watching us, who are now joining us, you are tuned in to Below the Belt with Sherrod Duncan. We are privileged to have with us Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford, Attorney at Law Mansa Walton is here, Attorney at Law Darren Wade. And we're discussing this whole issue of these jagabats weaponizing the courts and persecuting political enemies. And folks, as you're on, remember to share the live stream. Hundreds of you are watching us. Remember to smash that emoji button as well. Let us see how you guys are feeling out there. Good afternoon to Faye Joseph and Natasha Kennedy, Stacey Brafford Stacey, Robin Allen Barnwell, and all you other fantastic folks out there. A very good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining Below the Belt. Let me narrate for you guys some of the other issues in which these guys have brought folks before the court. And just recently we saw, for instance, Senior Counsel Kejuman Yasin highlighting the point a lot of people are being brought before the courts and they get no evidence. And one of the things he highlighted is that there are tiers in the judiciary in which cases must go through before you land to the High Court, only to realize you don't have sufficient evidence. For instance, soon as these folks come in, we highlighted the BK issue, of which that's why they're bringing this charge against Winston Jordan. You had the fact that they're suing Courtney Ben contracting over St. Rose's High School. They took the contract back, and now look at St. Rose's. The children are walking through mess and feces. Right? We saw the Atlantic Fuel case, Van West Charles, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, who actually won that case against the state, the Atlantic Fuel Company case. We saw the issue of them suing car care. We saw what transpired with Sivan's waste management, Trevor Ben. And those are just some folks. If we go back to political opponents, Valder Lawrence, Christopher Jones, James Bond, George Norton, a whole host of litigation, of which still lingering in the court system, lingering and languishing in the court system. Folks, any thoughts there?
Sharon, can I come in here?
Go right ahead, Darren.
I would have noticed an organization of African or Black businessmen met with Barry Jagyo yesterday. Some of these persons are personally known to me. Some of them are even my friends. I trust these charities. When they go to these things, they are not for a photo opportunity, a photo op. I trust that they are using this opportunity to raise our plights, to raise the issues that are affecting us all, the various persecution and attacks, particularly of the African race, particularly for those who are in opposition, and the vindictiveness of the government. If these persons who are going to these meetings with Barry Jagyo are not raising these issues, they are now a part of the problem. You are now a sellout. You are now anti-Black. Because you should be raising these issues at the meeting. You are now also a house slave. If you are going to these meetings and not raising those issues, you are just as no good like the PPP. You are just as no good as those who murder the 400 Black men. You are part of the problem if you are going to these meetings and you're not going to highlight these issues. So I want to put that out there. So do not raise any issue again if you had the opportunity to tell Barry Jagyo to his face what is going on and you would have failed. You are selfish. Thank you.
Guys, jump in at any point.
Sharon, let me say this. I believe that we have a number of organizations who have a role to play in this. And my concern is the dormancy of these organizations.
And one of the most vocal is the Human Rights Association.
The Human Rights Association has been very vocal, but we need specialist organizations. We need ACTA, we need IPADG, we need all of these organizations to
need the Guardians.
Right? We need them to continue to advocate. There is a role for advocacy. Look, it is a malady that seems to be afflicting the population. And we have become so cowed and bowed into silence. The government has handed out a 7% just disrespectful increase. And we still have not seen or heard of any decisive action by the union.
Amanza, the 7% for the public servants who earn in 70,000 and them and those meager salaries is disrespectful, but the president's 7% is 150,000. You try with that.
And this is why under the coalition, the time was taken to make sure that there was an equitable increase, because all they were doing when you give across the board increase is that you continue to widen the gap between the have and the have-nots. That is what you're doing. And so it takes a studied approach. And so I'm not prepared to pick on a particular association. I want to see advocacy from all and sundry who have a mandate to speak out. We have to be able, within our respective spheres of influence to speak out on these matters. The union has not yet taken, as far as I'm aware, one decisive action in the face of such grave disrespect to their constituents. And yes, the political opposition, which comprises the parliamentary opposition as well as the party machinery, has a role to play. But that does not negate the very, very significant role that the unions have to play. These are their direct stakeholders. These are the people that pay them dues every month. What level of representation has been brought to bear? The PPPC continues to rule this country by attrition. They wear people down. And we have to understand that as a people, we have to begin to be fortified to be able to win this battle.
Yep.
Otherwise, you will be so worn down with just your everyday existence that the PPP gets to literally get away with murder.
Yep. And you know, I love that you said this wearing down by attrition, because that's what's happening in the judicial system. You know, look, this the suing Basil Williams, he has a libel suit, right? Ferguson got a libel suit against her. She won a libel suit against Jagdeo just recently, right? We saw Nandalal suing Jaipal Sharma, right? So all of this is attrition, wearing down people, wearing down people. It goes right to that. Senior Counsel, any thoughts?
Yes, sir. I would agree generally with the comments made by both persons here on the show with me. But you know, Sherrod, there's another dimension which we don't ever really want to discuss.
Talk
And
to us,
we,
Senior
we
Counsel.
always want to deal with it from sometimes purely in an organizational way. Sherrod, I just want us to go back a bit more to the subject matter of this podcast, which is really the weaponizing of the courts and weaponizing of the law. And what is being said about the 7% increase and so on, all that is true and is correct. But I want to get back to that a bit, Sherrod, if you would allow me.
Go right ahead, sir.
No, Sherrod, you know, when we analyze what is happening in the country here, and we have the breakdown of a number of organizations, maybe the unions and so on. But what we have lacking in the society across the board is really an individual sense of indignation
Mm-hmm.
and an individual sense of purpose and an individual sense of integrity. You know, Sherrod, a large or substantial reason why we're having the problems in relation to the weaponizing of the law, the weaponizing of the courts, goes back to the fact of personal integrity of persons who hold certain offices. For example, that is on one hand, and on the other hand, the lack of the constitutional protections being activated to ensure that their integrity and they have a buffer against the obvious pressures that will be brought to bear on them by a government like the PPP. When we look at the Commission of Police, Sherrod, and when we look at the fact that he continues to be an acting appointment, subject to the whims and fancies of Robeson Ben and the PPP, when we look at the fact that the Police Service Commission has virtually been decimated and is virtually in court awaiting a judicial pronouncement as to its resolution, there's no wonder that we could have a SUKU, which is a department of the Guyana Police Force, acting virtually as a political arm of the government. I hope I've made my point clearly there, Sherrod.
Very clear.
So there's an open hand, an open field by which interventions are being made directly at the level of policemen, directly at the level of police officers
Mm-hmm.
to affect, create, and institute criminal proceedings and investigation, that the Commissioner of Police, as the head of that force, statutorily and constitutionally, would have no idea about. And even if he had any idea about it and he wanted to stop it, he's without the necessary protection and wherewithal to prevent it from happening. So it is not just the fact that it is being weaponized. I wanted us to address the breakdown of the law, the breakdown of the constitutional protections which are allowing or facilitating this rapid advancement of this weaponization process.
Yep, a very important point you've raised there, Roysdale. You talk about the Police Service Commission issue before the court. They don't want to activate the Ethnic Relations Commission. They don't want to activate the Public Procurement Commission, right? So it goes right hand in hand with what you're saying. I know Kemraj Ramdatan often talks about the breaking down of the guardrails of democracy. The PPP seem to operate better in this kind of Donald Trump environment, chaos and confusion, where structures don't work. They just want a few of them at the top calling the shots.
There is also the Public Service Commission,
Correct.
the Teaching Service Commission,
Correct.
Judicial Service Commission, and all of these commissions would have been established under the Constitution.
An independent, 50 months in, there is no energy from low energy catfish to move this government in the direction of legally establishing these independent bodies, because control freakism, again, to refer to a term Kemraj often uses, control freakism, and now reverting to this persecution by prosecution. And it didn't stop there. There are other fears of national governance we can go to. For instance, GCOM is a glaring one. They would do whatever it is to bring Vishnu Prasad as the CEO there. And we saw what is transpiring at GCOM. Let me just give folks a quick recap for those of you who have not been keeping so close contact on some of these issues here. Look at what has been transpiring at GCOM, folks. Take a listen. You all see the persecution of this former CEO of GCOM, Keith Lewingfield, Chief Elections Officer, Roxanne Myers, all them before the courts. Claremont Mingo, as I'm here, so callously, so heartlessly to see a sitting minister, even though he installed the little boy Ramston yesterday making fun of Jordan falling ill. He said, Mingo number 2. Enrique Levan was before the court. Michelle Miller, Carolyn Duncan, Duarte Hetzberger, a whole host of folks in every segment and section of society. Once they can't agree with you, they're finding something to drag you before the courts and waste your time and wear you down. Thoughts, guys?
Well, look, Sharon, my initial reaction is that clearly young Ramsey is not a good student of history. I mean, were he a good student of history, battalion would not have been an issue for him to pronounce. But
Even a good student of literature.
The
one below the belt. Those two below the belt.
Yeah, this is the aim of the podcast, right? Because did he, had he read history, he would have known that, battalions and so on are mobilized and so forth and so on. He would be able to pronounce the word properly. The point is, he, again, if he understood certain basic things about life, he would understand that that is not something that you make fun of. It just speaks to how in Guyana we are losing our humanity. And it is something that we have to guard against. And for a minister, it was deplorable. But that just goes to show how much of a degenerate he is. And it is quite, it is quite sad for me to see again, coming back to the point of advocacy and coming back to the point of personal accountability that Roysdale made, that we are in a society where people believe that they or refuse to speak up or refuse to say, no, I will not carry out that instruction because it is an abuse of the process or it is an abuse of my position. or I'm not legally authorized to do that. It is I keep making the point that we are at a crossroad, and if we do not take urgent stock of where we are, and this has not to do with political division right now. It has to do with us as Guyanese. If we do not take stock of where we are as a people and take corrective action, we are going to be on a on a path of no return.
Yep. Folks who are now joining us, I know some people come out to lunch late. Who are now joining us, guys? You tune in to Below the Belt with your host, Sherrod Duncan. I'm privileged to be talking with Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, Attorney at Law Manzo Walton Desire, and Attorney at Law Darren Wade. And we're discussing the whole issue of weaponizing the court, persecuting political enemies, guys. And I wanna, as in the closing moments of our program, some people it's come for the amen, some people could time apart go to come just when the food finished. Those of you who only now joining us, we haven't been having our hands tied behind our backs because you've had people like Roysdale and Darren warring before the courts with these jagabats. Darren, for instance, congratulations on that Haitian case. Congratulations on that Haitian case where the Chief Justice ended up blocking the deportation of the Haitians, quashing the deportation order. Right? You guys have been fighting that very case concerning the police service commission, right? And got them buckling. So we have not been wasting time. And Roysdale, you've been at the forefront on lots of the cases emanating out of the National Assembly, the permanent, parliamentary secretary's case, the Onage Waldron case. That woman lied before the entire country. She's still a sitting installed minister. In any decent country, she would have resigned and gone away quietly, right? But we got she files. And then we got the constitutional agencies independence case, as Roysdale was articulating there, them trying to roll back what they're not activating and operationalizing, they're trying to roll back. So we have won all of those cases in the courts. So we have not been with our hands tied behind our backs. Guys,
Well,
Senior Counsel, let's take it from you.
Oh, oh, thanks, Sherrod. Thanks for pointing out the work that we've been doing. Sherrod, it's interesting to know that since August 2nd, the PPP have suffered successive defeats in court, one after each other, major matters ranging from the management of the budgetary process to bypass it. The courts would have rejected them and we won against them. In relation to the constitutional agencies in which they wanted to take control of the funding of each and every constitutional agency, all the service commissions, including the judiciary, including parliament. The court struck down the legislation and ruled clearly that it was all unconstitutional. So, Sherrod, what you're seeing massing and developing at a very rapid rate is a dictatorial regime in which they're seeking to take control over every single space and every single aspect of public and constitutional life. We saw it in relation to the constitutional agencies, and we have dealt with that. We see it in relation to the use of the police force and the use of the judicial service commissions and the judicial process itself. But it's important, Sherrod, that when we seek to analyze what is happening, that we also remember the electoral process and the efforts currently by them to ensure that their candidate for the CEO position, Vishnu, emerges as a CEO. Now, I wanted to deal with this in a very frontal way. And this goes back to the question of personal integrity and compliance with standards. The Election Commission met and decided what would be in the criteria or the specifications for a person to qualify to be considered for the CEO's position. Vishnu fails to satisfy those basic qualifications, and yet still he ends up being one of the two persons who will be interviewed for the post of the CEO. We running a circus here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's as if the Ramsonian sickness has infected every single area of public life in this country.
I love that. The Ramsonian sickness. Brilliant. Brilliant, senior counsel.
Yes, yes, it is a Ramsonian sickness characterized by buffoonery and stupidity. So we have Sharon, you call this show below the belt, right?
That's
So
an uppercut and one
we
below the
talking
belt.
up and below, all about the place, Sharon. Because what is happening in this country is really ridiculous, completely ridiculous. And personally, as a citizen, as a Guyanese, I am going to do my best each and every day. People may not believe that it is your best. People will criticize you because they perceive you can do best or do better. But I want them to know that the party that I am a member of and a coalition, which we all members of on this broadcast here, we're committed to improving the lives of the people, and we will continue to fight um, for their rights and for better Guyana.
Excellent. Council Wade, let me throw you in there.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Sharon, I just want to endorse everything that has been said once again and to concur with it. Um, yes, we have successes in the court, but Sharon, I believe in addition to the courts, we need the entire Guyana to join us. We need the entire Guyana to join this fight. Rightly, Comrade Amanza would have highlighted some organization, I mean, Mr. Ford also, who should be playing some role in this fight. I would have mentioned the name before on other programs before in relation to not hearing from them. Today I would have mentioned the organization or the Black entrepreneurs who met with Barry Jagdio yesterday. I'm not saying that they are part of the promising, but if you have the opportunity to raise this issue in this audience, you must raise it. You must give us some support. You must give us some backings when you're there. You must you must say, Mr. Vice President or whatever he is, or Mr. President, whatever he is, that yes, we are here and all good, and but these are the issues that are affecting the African communities.
Even on the sidelines of the engagement.
Yes, yes, they must be able to raise those issues whilst there. So, and Sharon, thank you very much, Sharon. We need to pray for you and to pray for your family because Sharon, my wife, and I know your wife also, Prime Minister Roy, still 4 wives and so on. We know wives could be, your program when you go there night time, she's afraid for you. I'm sure she prefers to have you in bed with the children and so on. You know,
You know my wife
so
too well, sir.
encourage you.
You know my wife too well.
Pardon me?
I say you know my wife too well.
I have a wife myself, and your wife is also my relative from West Indies. So we know the whole story. When we like the assessor and things, they become fearful of what is transpired, and they're aware how vindictive and how wicked the PPP could be. So their concerns are legitimate, but pray that they have faith and pray that the Holy Spirit covers all of us. So so we can continue. Thank you, Sharon.
And as you've said that, Council Wade, I want to turn two quotes in one because it was Martin Luther King who says, nobody wants to die, right? Longevity has its place, and Forbes Burnham said, if they kill us, another Rasta can take we place. Abanza Walton is here.
Jared, thank you so much for having me on today. I really want to endorse the sentiments of my colleagues and to say that we have to fight this battle on all fronts, and every person has a role to play in this. This is literally a battle for the soul of Guyana. And we as a people, we are going to determine what direction this country takes. We as a people will determine that. I always say that we must remember that the power belongs to the people. and it is for the people on an individual and a collective basis to raise their voices against these atrocities.
Mm-hmm.
The PPP rules by fear, but we will not be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
We have weathered worse storms. And not only have we weathered worse storms, we thrived. And we will overcome this, and we will again thrive, and Guyana will again be on the path of wholesome development. And I stress the point of wholesome development because I think people confuse the two issues. You see buildings going up, you see things happening, but if you understand that it is not wholesome or it is not being done on a sound economic basis, it means that you are setting future generations up for failure. And so we have to each day wake up with this in mind,
Mm-hmm.
that our children and our children's children will judge us for our lack of action or otherwise. And so we have to know the kind of Guyana that we intend to bequeath to them. So thanks again, Sherrod, for having me, and keep up the good work.
Thank you for your
Sherrod,
kind
before you
words.
close, can I have a final word?
Well,
Sorry.
I was going to pull you guys in for a second or two longer, just to say that I know we are 8 days out, according to my counting. You know, we ain't good with maths. 8 days out from the 21st Biannual Delegates Congress of the PNC. And I know I keep forgetting who's in which team and all of that, but I know you guys are professional colleagues and political colleagues as well. So just give us a brief thought on how the campaigning is going in these final dates to the Congress. Because I know you all are
Sherrod,
seeking high office there.
Sherrod, permit me
Go ahead,
before I
Darren.
get into permit me before I get into the Congress to say, in addition to the activism we persons see from us here, a lot of persons have offices, they have churches, they have mosques and temples, they have friends. So if you do not want to be as overt as us, it could be covert. You could do it in a small meeting, in a small place. You're talking to a friend, you're talking a little name, you put it in this case, this PPP government wicked. You pass the word around,
Yep. Yep.
at the bottom. So that is also important
Yep.
as well. So I just want to put that point in. Well, Congress is coming. I am running for vice chair, and preparation is for me. I believe I've been getting good reaction from the people out there. They are most of the people say yes, Mr. Weed, and I trust that they vote for me. That you are one of our activists, and we must give you our support. So I will encourage everyone to support me and to vote for me. I know Amanzan Roysdale is running for chairman, and both of them are two excellent candidates, I must say, Sharon Duncan. And over to them.
Thanks, Darren. Guys,
Thank you for that. Look, it's going very, very well. I am personally energized um, by the reaction of our membership on the ground. As you go out into the villages and into the towns, our members just desire to be kept informed and in the loop. And so for me, it is a desire that I have to continue to make sure that we engage them on as frequent a basis as possible. So overall, for me, I will say it's good. I'm up against my colleague, Comrade Ford, senior counsel, and all I will say is may the best woman win.
mhm. Well, listen to me. If I had to choose somebody to beat me, if I had to,
Shots fired.
if I had to listen to me, I don't mind be beaten by a Roy Ford. I don't mind be beaten by an Amanza Walton this year. But it's the Ramsonians. It's them. I ain't want to beat me.
Yes, we can't deal with the Ramsonians.
Senior counsel.
Well. In these modern days, Sherrod, gender is fluid. So may the best woman mean to be a man, right?
I think this thing gonna end up at the CCJ. I can see this thing end up. Define gender, CCJ. Define fluid. Senior counsel.
Sherrod, this has been an amazing experience. I would not have given it up for anything in the world. It has been a tremendous opportunity to see the rejuvenation of our party, to see the rejuvenation of our groups,
Mm-hmm.
to see that our comrades still have hope in the People's National Congress reform and in the coalition as a whole. As I go about the work of campaigning, I'm taking it very seriously. I'm listening more than I'm speaking. I'm listening to the wishes and aspirations of our members and their dreams for a better party and a better country. And I'm formulating continuously where, in my mind, the party needs to go. And I believe that I will emerge as the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform. And in doing so, I will work to bring our party together, to bring the people of our country together, and certainly ensure that this government, this installed regime, would be out in the shortest possible time. And thank you
Fantastic.
for having me, Sherrod.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for coming on and the podcast Below the Belt. It's been our privilege, folks, having Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford. We're going to let that be the last word. Amanza Walton, Desir, attorney at law, and Darren Wade, attorney at law as well. Guys, thanks for making the podcast as special as it was. It's been our privilege having each and every one of you.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Sharon. Blessings.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Fantastic.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Guys, and there you have it. I'm certain by now you're in agreement that you ain't wasting your lunch hour. Wherever you guys are joining us from, some of you are joining us from good old Guyana, the cooperative oil producing republic. We pumping oil, folks. We pumping every day. We pumping in the morning. We pumping in the midday. We pumping in the night, but we ain't feeling it. We ain't feeling it. Maybe it's age. As you get bigger, you stop feeling certain things. Maybe it's age. We pumping, but we ain't feeling it. Guys, thanks for joining us on the podcast. We continue this discussion in the ring. And guys, we cannot do this without your support. We can't come below the belt. We can't hit them below the belt without your support. And that's why we continue to ask us to support us. This is a In the Ring affiliate program. And so all of the platforms that are available to contribute to In the Ring is available for this program as well. And so it is the Cash App. There's a $ In the Ring 592. That's the Cash App handle. In the Ring 592. It's an In the Ring affiliate program. We are available on PayPal as well. In the Ring 592 at gmail.com. Again, we are available at PayPal. And we're also available via MMG. It is 627-6963. 627-6963. And we ain't got no problem with MoneyGram. We ain't got no problem at all with Western Union. And you can use that same MMG number to WhatsApp us if you need any guidance. You have an information tip, you got a little video, you got some photographs you want to share with us, you can share with us via WhatsApp, 627-6963. Folks, you all know by now, as we begun on Monday, once it's midday time, we below the belt. Who vex lose? Thanks for joining us, guys. See you guys in the ring at 8. In the ring at 8, folks. Thanks for joining Below the Belt. Stay safe. Who vex lose?